and happy holidays. I'm Joe Burleigh, and tonight I will be telling you the story of the Nutcracker and the Mouse King. Hold on to your nuts. Okay, long ago and far away, it's Christmas Eve, and little 7-year-old Marie and her little brother Fritz are waiting in the hallway of their family home. Now, in the parlor on the other side of the door, their parents and their godfather Drosselmeyer they are preparing Christmas for them with all of the presents, setting everything up. And Godfather Drosselmeyer, no way to not say that weirdly, just a funny name. Um, he is an inventor and a clockmaker. So this guy is super dope. He can do really cool stuff. And the kids are like, "What do you think he's made us? Like, it could. This has the potential to be amazing, right?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, maybe it's like a mechanical dragon or something like that." Well, finally, after waiting, the doors open and they usher the kids in, and the kids are like, "Wow, there are so many gifts," and in the center is Godfather Drosselmeyer's gift, and he has made them this mechanical castle, and it's stunning. And the kids are like, "Oh my god!" And so they go up to it, and the problem is that it's a mechanical castle. It doesn't really do anything, and you can't do anything with the mechanical people inside because they do what they do, and that's it. And so Marie's like, "Oh my god, I don't want to make him feel bad, but this is like if Hereditary had a baby with Old Town Prague. I mean, there's what are we supposed to do with this?" And so the parents are like, "What do you say to Godfather Drosselmeyer?" And they're like, "Thanks." And then, out of the corner of little Marie's eye, she spies a nutcracker. And for some reason, she's just completely taken with it. And she's like, who belongs to this nutcracker?" And the dad's like, "Marie, that's for everybody, so we need to share." But she's like, "I want him so much." And the dad's like, "Okay, well, since you're weirdly fond of this nutcracker that you've just laid eyes on, you can be its special caretaker." So Marie and Fritz and their sister Louise, who is like the Peggy Schuyler of this story, she will never show up again. Um, they start passing the nutcracker back and forth, cracking nuts. And so they're having a blast, and Maria's loving it, and they're cracking nut after nut after nut. And Maria's like, "Oh my god, I love this doll." And Fritz is like, "Yeah, crack." And Louise is like, "I'm bored. Where's mommy?" And so, anyway, Fritz gets this big nut, and he's like, "I'm gonna crack this big nut." And Marie's like, "Wait, hold on. Just no, that you're gonna break it. Don't break my nutcracker." And he's like, "No, I'm breaking this nut." And he puts the nut in the nutcracker's mouth, and he yanks down, and sure enough, that nut is too big for that nutcracker's jaw, and it breaks him. And Marie is like, "You little douche. I told you not to put that nut in his mouth, and you did it anyway, and now he's broken. So thank you for that." So she takes the nutcracker, and she takes a ribbon off of her little dress, and she lovingly binds his jaw up to his head, and she's like, "We're gonna fix you." And so the evening winds down, and everyone else is in bed, and she looks at him in the eye, and she says, "I promise you, Godfather Drosselmeyer will fix you, and you're gonna be as good as new, and you've got nothing to worry about. I got you, Nutcracker." And all of a sudden, his face comes alive, and his eyes are shining up at her, and he like kind of smiles, even though he can't because his jaw is like broken. And she's like, "Ah, no, surely not." And she's like, "Okay, whatever. That was weird, but cool. I'm gonna put you to bed now. You rest." And so she goes off, headed to bed, and the Godfather clock No, the grandfather clock starts to strike, or to chime, rather. And in the dark of the hallway, Marie thinks that she can see Godfather Drosselmeyer sitting on top of the clock as if he's trying to prevent it from striking the hour. Then it gets real because this nasty horde of mice, starts to emerge from the floorboards, and Marie is like, ah! And it's like the last crusade in there. And they start to go for the toys and the dollies, and this toy mouse battle commences. And the Nutcracker, he takes that ribbon and he wears it like a token of his lady fair, and he charges as the leader into this battle. And for a while, it's looking pretty good for the toys, but there are so many mice that they start to overtake them, and it's crazy. And Marie is like beside herself, and she can see that the Nutcracker's about to be taken down, and she's like, no! And she grabs her slipper and she flings it at the Mouse King. Now let me talk to you about this Mouse King for a minute, okay? Are you ready for this? How many heads does a mouse have? 1. How many heads does the Mouse King have? 7. 7 ugly whiskered heads on this bitch, okay? Now, she throws her slipper at it, and in the heat and swell of the moment, she faints dead away. Well, she wakes up the next morning, and her arm is bandaged, and she's like, oh, and her mom was like, baby, how are you? What happened to you last night? And Marie is like, oh my God, Mom, you won't believe it. And she tells her about the battle and the Nutcracker and this 7-headed mouse. And the mom is like, Frank, your daughter's delusional from a fever dream. And he comes in the room and he's like, A, my name's probably not Frank because we're in Germany. And B, you said our daughter's delusional? And she's like, yeah, she's talking about like mice coming up from the floor and the toys coming to life and everything. And he's like, oh God, okay, we're gonna need you to stop having dreams. And so you just rest and get better because obviously your wound made you go a little cuckoo. So anyway, she's like, okay, but it really did happen. And her mom's like, shh. But it did. Shh. Anyway. So, let's see what happened after that. Oh, yeah. So, several days later, Godfather Drosselmeyer brings the Nutcracker back over to Marie. And he's fixed it, and the Nutcracker is good as new. And Marie is just like, hey. And so anyway, Godfather Drosselmeyer is like, Marie, I've got a story to tell you. It's about how the Nutcracker came to be, and this is the story of Princess Pirlipat and Madame Mouserinks, also known as the Evil Mouse Queen. Well, so there's this kingdom that's out there somewhere, and there's the king and the queen, and their beautiful daughter, Princess Pirlipat. And they reign over this kingdom. And there's apparently a mouse kingdom, like, there as well. And Madame Mouserinks discovers that night the king is having a big old sausage for dinner. And she's like, I want to eat that sausage lard. Because I know they're going to pump that sausage full of lard, and I want to eat it, and my kids want to eat it, so we're going to eat it. And so she goes, and she tricks the queen into letting them eat the king's sausage lard. And then the king is like, are you serious? How you let some mice come in and eat my sausage lard? What am I going to eat for dinner now? Huh? Sauerkraut? Carrots? Like what? Anyway, so, anyway, he's pissed and she's upset and he's pissed that she's upset. And so he hollers for his inventor. He's like, Drosselmeyer! Conveniently named, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're going to want to remember that. I promise. Churs. So he's like, Drosselmeyer, I want you to make me some traps for these mice, and I want them now. And so Drosselmeyer's like, okay, well, make you some traps. So they make some traps for the Royal Mouse family, and some of them work, and some of the mice get killed. Some of them are just injured, but, whatever. And Madame Mouse Grinks is not happy at all. She is furious, and she was like, no, you do not kill my children. You kill my children, I'm coming for your kid, okay? And so the Mouse Queen, Madame Mouse Rinks, creeps up and she's like, I curse you. And Princess Perlipat's like, oh God. And her head begins to swell and her mouth begins to widen and her teeth begin to grow and she starts popping out this fluffy white beard like Tim Allen in the Santa Claus, and she looks in the mirror and she's like, I'm a Nutcracker! And she's just horrified. And the king, oh, he is mad. And he's like, Drosselmeyer! Drosselmeyer's like, what? And the king is like, I want you to find me a cure for my baby princess baby, and I want it now. And he's like, I'm an inventor, so I don't know what you want me to do. And so he's like, well, you're going to find a cure for my baby princess baby, and you have 4 weeks. 4! And he's like, okay, still an inventor, but I can come up with something, I'm sure. So he spends 4 weeks trying to find a cure for this crazy Nutcracker curse. And nothing. There's nothing. High and low, kingdom, abroad, there's not, he doesn't know anything and he can't find anything. So, pardon me. So, excuse me. The king makes a proclamation. And the proclamation is thus. Any man who can crack this nut and feed it to my baby princess baby, he can marry her. And so everyone is like, yeah, okay. She's pretty. She's fine. So these men show up to the castle and nobody can crack this nut. And people are breaking teeth and breaking fingernails and breaking hammers and nobody can do it. And Drosselmeyer's like, oh, please, just somebody crack the stupid nut. And then all of a sudden, he's like, he sees his nephew. And the nephew's like, hey, Uncle Drosselmeyer, how's it going? And Drosselmeyer's like, have you heard this business? And the nephew's like, what's up? And so he tells him all about it. And then he's like, wait a minute. Do me a favor. Try to crack this nut. And the guy's like, oh, hey, a cracking tut. What? How do you know that? He's like, I just do. Like, duh. And so the nephew takes the nut and he's like, release the cracking tut. Crack. And there you go. And Drosselmeyer's like, I spent years and the nut was here and the man was here and they both were family, and what is my life? Somebody shoot me in the face. And so anyway, Drosselmeyer was like, okay, well, nephew, how would you like to marry the princess? And the nephew's like, awesome. And so they take him to Princess Pirlipat, and he takes the nut, and he's like, Princess, it would be my honor if you let me put this nut in your mouth and you eat it and you turn beautiful again. And she's like, okay. And so he closes his eyes, and she opens her mouth, and he places the nut gently inside, and she chews it up and swallows it, and she starts to transform like the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, and all of a sudden she is gorgeous again, and she's like, oh my god, I'm beautiful again, I'm so happy, thank you so much. But it's not over yet, because she's not paying attention to what he's doing, because currently he's taking his 7 blind steps backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then evil Madam Mouse Rinks is like, I'm gonna trip him, and she runs up, and she is trying to trip him, and he just steps on her, and squash, and to her, but he slips on the guts of this mouse, and goes stumbling back, and lands on his back, and before you know it, guess what? He turns into the Nutcracker, and Princess Pirlipat is like, here's the thing. You're ugly. I'm not marrying you. And he's like, you ungrateful bitch. And anyway, and that's the story. And Marie is like, that's terrible. And Godfather Drosselmeyer is like, well, that's life, kiddo. Anyway, she takes that story to heart, and she can't stop thinking about it. And the Nutcracker, the poor Nutcracker. And she's asleep in bed one night, and all of a sudden, she starts to hear this evil voice. I'm gonna chew your Nutcracker into pieces unless you give me all your dollies and all your goodies you got at Christmas. And she's like, no. And she turns, and it's the 7-headed Mouse King, who, ironically, is the son of Madame Mouse Rinks. These mouse won't quit. It's just ridiculous. Like cockroaches or something. And so she's like, I will sacrifice everything for my Nutcracker. Just don't hurt him. And so she gives him dollies and she gives him goodies. Well, of course, he comes back and he wants more. He demands more. And she's like, I don't have more. I gave you everything. What do you want from me? And he's like, well, I'm just going to have to chew your Nutcracker to bits. And the Nutcracker is like, oh, just give me a sword. Gives him the sword. And he brandishes that thing. And he's like, I am going to go vanquish that mouse. And he runs off like, Vincero! And she's like, go, kill him! And so the next night, he returns to her. He's like, I am victorious. He cut every single head off that evil Mouse King. And he's like, and I got the crowns to prove it. And he gives her these 7 golden crowns that he took from the heads of the mouse that he slew. Ooh, that's a good word, slew. I don't know if I've ever said that word before. Such fun. Oh. So, she wakes up, and she's like, whoa, that was a crazy... No, wait, first, no, go back. Because they have to celebrate. He's like, I'm victorious, here are the crowns, let's party. And he whisks her off to his magic dolly toy kingdom. And they start to celebrate. And it's the most amazing thing she has ever experienced. The kingdom is gorgeous. It's magical. It's like It's like that lantern scene in Tangled. It's gorgeous. It's just amazing, and she is so overwhelmed. She's like, I don't want to go, but she's so tired, and so she ends up falling asleep in the Nutcracker's palace, and she wakes up the next morning in her bed, and she's like, oh my god. Like when you have a dream that's amazing, like, I don't know, like you've won an Oscar or something, and then you wake up and that wasn't real. Oh, crap. And then your day is shit. Well, she wakes up and she was like, oh man, that was oh my god. And she sees the 7 crowns and she was like, that was real. I'm so happy right now because that was real. I could potentially go back. And she's like, Mommy! And the mommy's like, what, baby, what? And she tells her the story of the night, and the mom is like, Gary, your daughter's insane again! And Gary comes in, and he's like, I'm pretty sure my name is like Hans or Gunther or something more native. And B, what did she do now? And she tells him, and Gary or Frank or Hans or Gunther, he's like, okay, Marie, I'm gonna need you to stop saying words and having dreams, and your mother and I forbid you to ever mention this because we can't have people thinking we're parents of a crazy person. And Marie's like, but it happened. No, it didn't. Yes, it did. Shh. But shh. Ma. Shh. Dad. Shh. So she's like, ugh. And so anyway, she just cannot get all of her experiences and that story out of her mind. And she's got the Nutcracker there. And finally, she just can't stand it anymore. And she's like, listen, Nutcracker, I just have to say this. I'm going to lay all my cards out there, okay? The way you were treated was appalling. And I just want you to know that I would never do that to you, ever. I know you are a Nutcracker and you're not considered the most attractive thing, and Princess Perlipat was so mean to you just because of the way that you looked, but it's what's on the inside that counts, and we live in a world so full of hate and meanness, and I would never have done that to you. I would have given you everything. And all of a sudden, there's a bang! And she falls out of her chair, and of course, once again, faints dead away. It's like her thing. I don't know. Anyway, so she comes to a little while later in her bed, and her mother is there. She's like, baby girl, 2 things. One, your Nutcracker is missing. Sorry about that. Number 2, Godfather Drosselmeyer's nephew just randomly showed up for a visit, and he would like to see you. And he comes in, and he takes her aside, and he takes her hand, and he's like, Marie, with your words, you broke the spell over me, and you set me free. And I am so grateful, and I love you. Will you marry me? And she's like, oh my God. Do we get to go back to your kingdom? And he's like, oh yeah. And she's like, yes, I'll marry you. And he whisks her off to his magic dolly toy kingdom. And they're married. And she's crowned king. No, she's not. He's already king. And anyway, not that little girls can't be kings. They can be whatever the hell they want to be. And if you're a little girl, be what you want to be. Don't let the world tell you otherwise. Anyway, they go back, they're married, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's magical, and little Marie is crowned king. Damn it! Okay, so he proposes. It's 366 days later, unless they're in a leap year. They're in Germany back then in that kingdom, and then it's 368. But that neither here nor there. They're married. It's magical. It's great, and she marries him, and they crown her queen of the Magic Dolly Toy Kingdom, and it's so romantic. Y'all, Marie just turned 8. Yeah, she ate. She's like, yeah, here's the thing. And the prince is like, whoops. Well, you looked a lot bigger when I was a Nutcracker. The end. Happy holidays, everyone. That was the story of the Nut King and the No. Y'all, go open some presents, go drink some wassail, and have a great time this Christmas. Mwah.